I have never done this type of video before, and that is a book unhaul. Normally I am just hauling books, and I do unhaul books, but I tend to do it sporadically, like whenever I finish a book and I've decided I'm no longer going to be reading it. I just pop that sucker into a little free library or give it to somebody I know who might like it and call it a day. I don't normally collect them into a stack and get rid of a bunch at once, but I was kind of going through some of my books and just starting to purge a little bit. It's not a huge unhaul. I do love a lot of the books that I have in my collection, but these are ones that I have read or maybe own a couple copies of that I am now deciding I'm going to unhaul to make more space for other books that hopefully I love more than these ones. So starting off, I am unhauling two Colleen Hoovers. I have unhauled Colleen Hoover before. I think it was Ugly Love, and I've read some of her books. I definitely have a lot more on my shelf that I do need to read before I decide whether or not I want to keep. There are two that I've read that I know I'll keep and reread, and that is Layla and Verity. Those two were really good. These two were all right, but thinking on it, I can't see myself ever rereading them. So the first one is November 9. I read this one in 2021. I can perfectly remember exactly where I was reading this. I actually read it in November of 2021. Part of the reason why I think I never want to reread this one is because when I was reading it, I was going through kind of a not so happy time in my life, and this book really reminds me of that. But also, it just wasn't that great. I can remember bits and pieces of it, but I feel like with what I remember, more of it should be more memorable. I don't know, it was all right, but I definitely would rather just put this into a little free library and hopefully somebody else can stumble upon it and get more enjoyment out of it than I ever will again. I also remember being annoyed by something that happens with one of the characters, which is not unusual for Colleen Hoover. And then the other Colleen Hoover I am unhauling is Regretting You. This one was just turned into a movie. Have not seen it, but I figure instead of ever rereading it, if I was really that desperate to plunge into this world and this story again, I'd just go with the movie this time rather than spend hours of my life rereading this book. Once again, not that memorable. I don't even remember what I rated this. Hopefully it wasn't 5 stars, but if it was, I rated it wrong. Next, shockingly, I am going to be unhauling a few Cassandra Clares, but there is good reason for this. So the first one I'm unhauling is Shadowhunters and Downworlders. I've actually never read this book, and I have fully intended to, but it's not really even written by Cassandra Clare. It is a bind-up of other authors describing the world of the Mortal Instruments, and like it's non-fiction about that world. I'm just not as into this world as I was when I bought this book. So I am going to unhaul it. Hopefully it lands in the hands of someone who is Mortal Instruments obsessed at this moment in their life. I think they would love that. I wish I would have read this one when I was way more into it, but I didn't, and now it just sits on my shelf and collects dust, and I know I'm never going to get into this one. Next, I'm unhauling Chain of Thorns, and the reason for this is because I actually have 2 copies. This was the first one that I bought. I pre-ordered the collector's first edition, but then I actually bought a signed edition that was on sale. I think it was like $20. So I'm gonna keep the signed edition and unhaul this edition because I don't need 2 copies of the same book, and it is the exact same. The only difference is the other one is signed, so this one is gonna go. And then I am also unhauling Ghosts of the Shadow Market by Cassandra Clare. This one is not just by Cassandra Clare, it's also co-written by Sarah Reese Brennan, Maureen Johnson, Kelly Link, and Robin Wasserman. It is a bind-up of short stories that has to do with some of the characters in each of the Shadowhunters series, and I read this one a few years ago and it just wasn't my favorite. So I can't see myself really reading it again. I definitely probably just skip it the next time I go to reread The Mortal Instruments. I'm not really a huge lover of her short story bind-ups, and I haven't decided if I want to keep the other ones that I own yet either. But for now, I am going to unhaul this one because I don't see myself ever reading it again. Next, I am unhauling Misconduct by Penelope Douglas. The only reason why I'm getting rid of this one is because I bought this copy and then a box set of Penelope Douglas novels went on sale, and this book was also in that box set. But the box set was dirt cheap, so was this book, so I don't feel bad about getting rid of it at all. Do I know what that one is about? No. Next, I'm going to be unhauling A Gentle Reminder by Bianca Sparacino. I actually read this collection of poetry slash essays, I'd like to say, like last month, and it was all right, but I just found that I could not relate to it at this point in time of my life, and hopefully I'll never relate to it again because a lot of it has to do with being single, and I'm in a very committed relationship and don't see myself in that position hopefully ever. So I am going to put this into a little free library and hope that somebody else can get some joy out of it. It was a very good collection, just not for me. Then I am unhauling 3 collections of poetry by Lang Leave. Well, I guess 2 collections of poetry and 1 notebook. So this one came in the box set that I bought of Lang Leave, and it is literally just blank paper, but it is so you can like write your own poetry. It's called Your Words Are Your Power, and I think it's a beautiful notebook, and I'm sure if somebody was really into writing poetry, it would be great. I am not. I've never really been big on writing, more just reading, so I am gonna unhaul this one. And then the other 2 are Love and Misadventure and The Universe of Us. These ones, again, have to do a lot with like breakups and being single and just stuff I'm not really relating to anymore. They were also very simple, and I've come to realize that I definitely like poetry that's a lot more detailed and kind of long-winded. I'm not really big into just like poetry that's 2 sentences. I like my poetry to have a little bit of substance, so hopefully somebody else will get good use out of these ones. And then last thing on my pile of unhauls is 3 copies of Pride and Prejudice. I own way too many editions of Pride and Prejudice. This entire shelf behind me is all Pride and Prejudice, and then there's also more Pride and Prejudice on this shelf, and then there's more over here in the corner that I haven't put on the shelf yet. So I've got enough to last me this lifetime and the next one as well. These ones I'm only unhauling because I'm just not that crazy about them. They're definitely very unique editions of Pride and Prejudice, but they just don't compare to some of the other ones that I have, so hopefully they land in the hands of somebody who needs to read Pride and Prejudice for school or something like that. The first one is this very strange edition of Pride and Prejudice. It does not even have a publisher name on it, so I couldn't tell you what edition it is. I have no idea. It also says it's illustrated, but the illustrations are not the greatest. They're definitely photocopied from somewhere. Hold on. It says it's illustrated, but I'm not even seeing an illustration. Whoever designed this doesn't know what that means. Oh, here's a good example. It's like very pixelated and just not a beautiful work of art like a lot of the other editions of Pride and Prejudice I have are, so it's gonna go. It also has like summaries of the characters and the locations and chapters, so I think this would be great for someone who's, like I said, studying this for school. Not for me though. The next edition is this very, very simplistic one. Once again, I don't know that this one has a publisher. It's just a random printing of Pride and Prejudice, and the font is so weird. Like, it is not what you'd expect for Pride and Prejudice. It feels like it was just typed out in Microsoft Word and then somebody just hit print and called it a day. So it is also going to go. And then this last one is called a Golden Classic. I thought when I bought this one, because I bought it online as one does, that it was going to be very beautiful. It said that there were pictures in it. The cover looked gorgeous, but the pictures that are in it are once again just very pixelated and not that great compared to the cover and what I thought I was getting. So another one, I think this is the nicest one out of the 3 editions that I am unhauling, but it is also gonna go. It just does not deserve a space on my shelf. I don't have that much room on my shelves, and so every space counts, and those have gotta go. But that is it for my first book unhaul. I'm probably going to do this again. It's kind of nice to just have a big stack and send it out the door and feel like I've actually accomplished something and freed up some space for the oodles and oodles of books that are waiting to find a space on my shelf. But with that, I am going to leave this one here. I hope you have a great rest of your week and happy reading.